Have you ever looked around and wondered why some people just seem to pick up new skills like it's nothing, always moving forward, while the rest of us sometimes feel, well, stuck? Here's the secret. It's not about being smarter. It's about understanding how we, as adults, actually learn. Today, we're going to unlock that secret. We're talking about how to go from being a student in the classroom to becoming the CEO of your own life. Let's get into it.
Okay, be honest. Think about the last work training or seminar you had to sit through. Did you feel totally engaged, fired up, or did you kind of feel like you were being talked down to? You know, like you were back in grade school and your only job was to sit still and listen. Yeah, it's a super common feeling. And believe it or not, there's a reason for it.
And this is it. This is the whole ball game right here. It all comes down to two very different ideas. On one hand, you have pedagogy. That's how we teach kids, and it assumes the learner is dependent. But for us, for adults, there's this other thing called andragogy, and it's a game changer, because it starts with the assumption that we are self-directed, it respects our experience, our goals, and our need to be in the driver's seat.
All right, so here's the plan. We're going to start by really digging into the differences between teaching kids and guiding adults. Then we'll take a look at the surprisingly long history of this idea. After that, we'll break down the 6 key principles that make andragogy work. We'll see where it's being used in the real world, and then we'll even look at what comes next. Finally, we'll tie it all together so you can start leading your own learning.
So let's start with this huge shift in thinking. I'm talking about moving away from that old school model where the teacher has all the knowledge to a new model where the learner, that's you, is at the absolute center of everything. And this isn't just a small tweak, it's a total revolution in how we should think about growing, both personally and professionally.
Let's break it down. In the old way, the student is basically a passive empty cup, a blank slate, and the motivation is all external, grades, approval, that kind of thing. But andragogy says no way. As adults, we walk into any room with a lifetime of experience, and that experience, it's not just noise, it's a goldmine. It's our most valuable learning tool. Our motivation comes from inside, from our own goals. We're not learning about abstract subjects. We're learning how to solve the very real problems that are standing in our way.
So you might be thinking this is some new, trendy corporate buzzword, right? Not even close. The idea of andragogy has these really deep, fascinating roots. It's been shaped by philosophers, by massive social upheaval, and by this growing realization that we needed a much more human way to think about learning.
The journey starts way back in 1833. A German teacher, Alexander Kapp, coins the term, inspired by Plato, of all people. Then, the idea basically goes dark for almost 100 years, until a guy named Eugen Rosenstock Hussey brings it back in the 1920s for a really powerful reason. And finally, in the 70s, an American educator named Malcolm Knowles grabs these ideas and turns them into the practical system we know and use today.
Just wow. Let that quote sink in. For Rosenstock Hussey, writing this after World War I, andragogy wasn't just a theory, it was a tool, it was medicine. It was about empowering an entire population to pick up the pieces, solve their own massive problems, and consciously build a better future. It was learning as an act of healing and hope. So, starting from that really powerful, human-centered idea, how did Malcolm Knowles turn it into something we can all actually use? Well, he boiled it all down into 6 core principles that really explain what makes us, as adult learners, tick.
The first 2 are the foundation. Self-concept is really that mental switch we all flip as we mature, right? We go from looking to our parents or teachers for all the answers to taking charge of our own lives. And number 2, the role of experience. Our past isn't just a bunch of stories. It's a massive database of lessons, failures, and wins that we can draw on for any new thing we want to learn.
Okay, principles 3 and 4 are all about one thing, relevance. We are ready to learn something when we need it. It's that simple. We want to know how it applies to our lives right now. And that leads to number 4. We're not interested in learning about a topic in the abstract. We want to learn how to solve a problem that's right in front of us.
And the last 2 really get to the heart of what drives us. For an adult, the why is everything. If we don't understand why we need to learn something, we're just not going to do it. But the biggest driver of all, it's intrinsic motivation. Yeah, a paycheck is nice, but what really gets us out of bed is that deep down desire for a better life, for more self-respect, for a sense of accomplishment. That's the real fuel.
Okay, so that's all the theory. It sounds great, but does it actually show up anywhere? Does it work out here in the real world? The answer is a huge, resounding yes.
especially in jobs where thinking on your feet isn't just a skill, it's a requirement. I mean, look at this. These principles are the backbone of effective training in all these high-stakes fields. Think about corporate leadership programs, military war games, police academies, continuing ed for social workers. In every single one of these, you need people who can think for themselves, pull from their past experiences, and solve unexpected problems. In other words, you need self-directed learners. Andragogy is an incredibly powerful tool, for sure. But here's the cool part. It's not the end of the story. The journey of learning keeps going, pushing toward even more freedom, even more personal control. So let's look at what's next on the horizon. And that brings us to this idea, pedagogy. Now, if Andragogy is about being a self-directed student, following the curriculum, pedagogy is about becoming the architect of your own curriculum. You're not just following the map anymore, you're actually drawing the map yourself. The learner decides not just how to learn, but what to learn in the first place.
This chart just lays out the whole evolution so clearly. You start with pedagogy, totally teacher-controlled. You grow into andragogy, where you take the lead. And you can evolve into pedagogy, where you determine everything. And check out how the goal changes too, from just getting knowledge to developing a specific skill, all the way to building true capability, that is, the deep ability to learn and adapt to absolutely anything that comes your way.
So, here's what this all boils down to. This whole progression, it's not just some chart in a textbook. It is a literal roadmap for taking control of your life. It is the journey from being a passenger in your own growth to being the pilot of your own destiny.
And I love this metaphor because it just clicks. With pedagogy, you're in the passenger seat. Someone else is driving. Andragogy hands you the keys and a map. You're in charge of getting to the destination. But with pedagogy, you're not just a driver, you're an explorer. You're throwing the map away, charting your own course into unknown territory, all powered by your own curiosity and your own sense of purpose.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought. Think about that big dream you have, that personal goal, that business idea, that life you want to build. Getting there is going to require a leader. So the real question is, are you ready to step up and be that leader? Are you ready to take the controls and lead your own learning journey to make it happen?